I never thought I'd end up here, recounting a tale that sounds like something straight out of a horror movie. My name is Alex, and I'm safe now, or as safe as one can be after what I've been through. But the memory still haunts me, the events playing over and over in my mind. Maybe by sharing this, I can finally rid myself of the shadows that cling to my every step. It all started with a combination of boredom and curiosity. I was a tech-savvy college student, familiar with the ins and outs of the internet. One evening, after a few too many beers, my friends and I began discussing the deep web. We'd all heard the stories, urban legends about illegal marketplaces, hitmen for hire, and other unspeakable things hidden away from the surface web. Fueled by a sense of invincibility and the desire to prove myself, I decided to dive in. I downloaded the Tor browser, the gateway to the deep web, which allows users to access hidden sites while maintaining anonymity. Tor uses a system of layered encryption, bouncing your communications around a network of volunteer-operated servers worldwide. It's supposed to be secure, but that night I learned that no amount of encryption can protect you from the darkness that lurks in the human soul. I started with the Silk Road, a notorious online marketplace that had been shut down years ago, but had since spawned countless imitations. The Silk Road was infamous for its drug trade, but I wasn't interested in that. I was looking for something more thrilling, more forbidden. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I navigated the site, scrolling through listings that ranged from counterfeit money to illegal firearms. And then I found it, a link to a private forum, simply titled The Playground. It required a password, but the description boasted of content far darker than anything the Silk Road had ever offered. My curiosity piqued. I began searching for ways to gain access. After hours of digging through forums and chat rooms, I found what I was looking for, a cryptic message containing the password. I entered the password and hit enter. The screen went black for a moment before loading a simple text-based interface. The playground wasn't about flashy graphics. It was about content. The categories listed made my stomach churn: human trafficking, extreme violence, and snuff films. I should have closed the browser right then and there, but I was in too deep. One category caught my eye: live streams. The description promised real-time broadcasts of exclusive content. I clicked the link, my hands trembling. The screen changed to a list of active streams, each with a short, vague title. One of them stood out: Room 23, Live. I clicked on it, and a video feed opened. The room was dimly lit, the walls bare and grimy. A single chair sat in the center, facing the camera. It was empty. I watched, my heart pounding in my chest, as the chat box next to the video began to fill with messages. User 1. When does it start? User 2. Soon. They always take their time. As I stared at the screen, the door to the room opened and two men dragged a young woman inside. She was bound and gagged, her eyes wide with terror. They forced her into the chair and secured her with ropes. I felt a wave of nausea as one of the men turned to the camera and spoke. "Welcome to room 23, he said, his voice cold and emotionless. "Tonight's entertainment will begin shortly." I tried to exit the site, but my computer froze. Panic set in as I realized I couldn't close the browser or turn off my laptop. The man in the video continued to speak, describing in graphic detail what they planned to do to the woman. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the screen, horrified by what I was witnessing. Suddenly, the video feed cut out, replaced by a message. "We see you, Alex." My blood ran cold. How did they know my name? My hands shook as I tried to force my laptop to shut down, but it was unresponsive. The message changed. "You shouldn't have come here." Finally, I yanked the power cord from the laptop, and the screen went black. I sat there in the dark, my heart racing, trying to process what had just happened. I felt exposed, vulnerable. They had found me, and I had no idea how. I spent the next few days in a state of paranoia, jumping at every sound, convinced that someone was watching me. I deleted everything related to Tor and the deep web from my computer, but the fear lingered. Then, the emails started. They were from anonymous addresses, filled with threats and graphic images from Room 23. They promised that I would be next, that they were coming for me. I went to the police, but there was little they could do. The deep web is a labyrinth of anonymity, making it nearly impossible to trace the people behind the threats. I was left to fend for myself, constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the day they would come for me. I was getting desperate. Bills were piling up, and my retirement savings were dwindling faster than I ever anticipated. At 62, finding work wasn't easy, and the odd jobs I picked up barely kept me afloat. That's when I heard about the dark web. I knew it was dangerous, but I was out of options. People said you could make a quick buck there if you were willing to take risks. I figured, why not? What did I have to lose? I downloaded the Tor browser, the gateway to the dark web, where anonymity was supposed to be guaranteed. Tor uses a system of layered encryption, bouncing your communications around a network of volunteer-operated servers worldwide. I read up on it, learned the basics, and felt confident enough to dive in. The websites on the dark web were unlike anything I'd ever seen. They were crude, often just text on a black background. No flashy graphics, no advertisements, just raw, unfiltered content. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for: an anonymous marketplace dealing in illegal goods, drugs, counterfeit money, stolen identities, you name it. But I was there for one thing: firearms. I needed money, and I heard you could make a fortune selling them. I found a listing that seemed promising. Quick sale, high profits, discreet meeting. I clicked on it, and a chat window popped up. The username was Silencer. The conversation was brief and to the point. Silencer wanted to meet in person to finalize the deal, and he promised a hefty payout. I was hesitant, but the thought of the money silenced my doubts. We arranged to meet at an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. It was a sketchy location, but I told myself it was just part of the business. I packed my things and drove out there, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation. The warehouse was abandoned, a relic from some bygone era of industry. Its windows were broken, and the paint was peeling off in long, jagged strips. I parked my car and walked to the entrance, the heavy door creaking as I pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the smell of decay. I could barely see in the dim light, but I spotted a figure standing in the shadows. "Silencer!" I called out, my voice echoing off the walls. The figure stepped forward, and I saw he was a tall, burly man with a hood covering most of his face. "You got the goods?" he asked, his voice low and gravelly. "Yeah, I got 'em," I replied, opening my bag to show him the firearms. He nodded, but something in his eyes made my skin crawl. "Good. Follow me. The boss wants to inspect them personally." I hesitated, but followed him deeper into the warehouse. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, but the promise of money kept me moving. We walked through a series of dimly lit corridors until we reached a large, open space. There were more men there, all wearing similar hoods, and in the center of the room, a single chair with restraints. My heart sank. This wasn't a deal. It was a trap. Before I could react, two men grabbed me from behind, forcing me into the chair. I struggled, but they were too strong. They strapped me in, securing my arms and legs. I was helpless. The man who had brought me here, Silencer, stepped forward and pulled back his hood. His face was scarred, his eyes cold and devoid of empathy. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, a cruel smile spreading across his lips. "We don't deal in firearms. We deal in people." Panic surged through me. Human trafficking. They were going to sell me. I had walked right into their trap, and now I was going to pay the price. "Please," I begged, my voice shaking. "I have money. I can pay you." Silencer laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Your money is worthless here, but you'll fetch a good price." They left me there, alone in the darkness, the reality of my situation sinking in. I had been so foolish, so desperate for money, that I ignored every warning sign. Now I was going to pay with my life. Hours passed, Or maybe it was days. Time lost all meaning. The only sound was the occasional drip of water from the ceiling and the distant echoes of footsteps. I was hungry, thirsty, and terrified. Then, one night, I heard something different. The sound of a struggle, shouts, and gunshots. My heart raced with a mixture of hope and fear. The door burst open, and a group of armed men stormed in, their faces covered with masks. "Get him out of here!" one of them shouted, and two of them rushed to my side, untying the restraints. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice weak. "We're the good guys," one of them said, helping me to my feet. "Now move!" They escorted me out of the warehouse, the sounds of battle echoing behind us. I was too weak to walk on my own, but they supported me, half carrying me to safety. Once outside, I saw police cars and ambulances. It was a raid. The authorities had finally found the trafficking ring and were shutting it down. In the days that followed, I learned that I was one of the lucky ones. Many of the victims they found hadn't survived. I was taken to the hospital, treated for dehydration and malnutrition, and given a new identity to protect me from any remnants of the trafficking ring. But the experience changed me.